All right, I am joined today by Tash, Adam, and Shivani from the Logbooks. Hello, how are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Good. Nice to have you. It's always a weird one when you open up by asking a universal question to three people on a video call because nobody knows who should talk.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
let's start from the beginning, I guess. Tash, could you tell us all about the Logbooks, and maybe from the beginning how it came about?
Yeah, for sure. So the Logbooks is a podcast which is all about untold stories on LGBTQ plus history in Britain and conversations about being queer today. And the way that we do that is by centering it around these logbooks, the physical logbooks, which are a written record of the calls that were taken by volunteers at this charity called Switchboard, which is an LGBT plus helpline, started back in 1974, and these logbooks run to 2003. So we use these entries to look at the themes that were arising throughout the periods of time. Our first season covered 74 to 82, and the second season, which is out now, is 83 to 91. And to add to those logbooks, to bring those logbooks to life, we've gone out and we've spoken to people who lived through those periods of times, have memories of the themes that come up in the calls, people that called Switchboard, that volunteered for Switchboard, a real mixed bag of everyone. But we felt it was really important to have them tell those stories, share their history, share their memories. And I guess the way it came about was I came across the logbooks when I was rifling through the attic at Switchboard, and they were just incredible. We moved them to the archive at Bishopsgate Institute, and I started reading them. And it's Adam will and Shivani will definitely agree with this. It's like one of the best books that you've ever written. They not only are
Or
they falling
red.
apart. Yeah, sorry, ever read. No, I have actually written in the more modern logbooks, but not the old ones. But yeah, they're just like fantastic. They laugh, they cry, they are falling physically apart as all of these stories and memories fall out,
Mm.
into your eyes. And I basically worked on them for a couple of years, and then did a presentation for LGBT History Month last year. I can't believe it was only last year. Feels like so long ago. And Adam was at that presentation, and basically was as invigorated by the logbooks as I was. And then we brought Shivani on board, and the podcast was born.
Amazing. So, Adam, what was your background before, and how did you end up at that talk?
Yeah, I just go to talks about LGBT history on a Tuesday night. I mean, that's just that's my bag. And previously, I my background is in various things. I guess mainly as a journalist and an editorial person. I was a social media editor at The Economist as my sort of most recent previous job, and
Right.
before that, I was a journalist covering the politics of science, and before that, a journalist covering intellectual property law. And but throughout all of that time, reading and learning a lot about LGBT plus the history as well at the same time, and I was shopping around for a project really,
Mm.
something to do with that. And so when I heard Tash's presentation, I was like, oh my gosh, wow, this is it. This is the one. And I had made some podcasts previously, and it was just I could just hear that this was a podcast. I could hear it in the stories that Tash was telling, and in the stories in the notes that were written in those logbooks, and in the idea that this is a phone line and it's one person talking to another person, which is often kind of how a podcast sounds when you're
Hmm.
when you're listening to it. So I just thought, yeah, this is a podcast. So that was what we wanted to do. And then and Tash also had met Shivani recently at that point, and so we were like, well, let's get them on board because we need another person as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, Shivani, this is great because quite often on this podcast we just speak to the hosts. They take all the glory, pretend that it's just all about them. They do all the hard work. But could you explain your role on this podcast? I know podcast producers, whenever you say producer, that can mean a variety of different things. What do you contribute?
Just to clarify, Tash and Adam do a lot of work,
Okay.
and
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
to keep them a bit sweet. So they do a lot of hard work, and they are great. And my role is mostly making sure that they sound good and know that what they're talking about is going to come across well to the audience, and the way that they talk about things. Because Tash and Adam were probably LGBT plus history experts when we started this, but if they weren't then, they definitely are now. And a lot of our audience might not have that sort of expertise in the history. And some of the things that we cover are quite complex and it's all intertwined, and we're trying to cover a lot of ground. We're talking about legal issues in that time period. We're talking about emotional problems. We're talking about social problems, and just trying to make sure that what Tash and Adam say is coherent and makes sense to somebody who might have like a vast wealth of knowledge in the area, or might just be turning into one episode of the logbooks to say, let's check it out. I've seen the picture on the little podcast app that I use, and let's just have a look at it because it's a bright pink podcast.
Yeah.
They might not know anything else about the subject, and it's basically me trying to make sure that the stories make sense and that Tash and Adam make everything clear to the audience and to the listener.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. So Tash, if somebody was to see that pink artwork and think I'm interested in this, could they just click on a random episode and be up to speed within minutes, or do you think they should go back to the start and listen to episode 1 onwards, or what do you think?
Well, you know, we all have our own podcasting ways of interacting with podcast world, and as someone who does both of those things, I think that you could pick up one of our episodes and listen to it, but then I would say, if you like what you heard in that episode, go back and start from the beginning, because it's all about how we found the podcast, how we found the logbooks, how we came to make the podcast. And then you're following these characters that intertwine with each other's lives and move through this period of time. And although we don't tell it in a chronological order in either of the seasons within the time frame that we have chosen, they do interact with each other. And I definitely would say do season 1 before season 2, because a lot of what happens in season 1 frames a lot of the reaction in season 2. And you are hearing stories from our contributors and the next stage of their life in some parts. And we're also looking at the changes in societal attitudes towards the queer community and the government's response and all of that stuff. I'm making it sound incredibly complex. It's not. It's human stories and of interaction, which are fascinating. But yeah, I would say always start from the beginning.
The thing is, it's an intergenerational conversation. I'm just thinking about that question and thinking that it's a conversation, and you know how like you can drop into a conversation in a pub at any I mean you can't now, but you know, there's a group of people in a pub, you can drop into a conversation, maybe you know one of them, and you can sort of pick it up, and you know you can get involved and talk to them, and it's kind of like that. I hope that it's like that as much as it is beneficial if you were there from the beginning of that conversation, as if you've known that group of people from the beginning. And that's kind of, I think sometimes this term intergenerational conversation is like a bit too heavy, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to be doing this in the right way because I've got to be respecting my elders, and the elders have got to be listening to the young people. And actually I guess we try and be more humane than that, and just say like, you know, this is just a conversation, and any episode hopefully stands alone.
Yeah, totally. And at the end of each episode, which links into what Adam's saying, we reflect today on the themes that have arisen throughout the particular episode. And that's been a really interesting thing to do, I think. We've really enjoyed looking at how we can reflect in the context of 2019 or 2020, and really bring those themes up to date. Excellent.
We've obviously been doing a pretty good job of it, because you have won a British Podcast Award. Could you? This is your chance to blow your own trumpets a little bit. Could you tell us a bit more about that? What the award was, and what it meant to you guys? Adam?
It was the best podcast in the cosmos, and the Alpha Quadrant.
Was that the title
combined? Yeah, that was the name of it. Wasn't it? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So that's all we need to know. I don't think. Yeah, don't need to say anything else.
Someone else say it properly.
It was the best new podcast for 2020, and it was an incredible experience. I know it's really cheesy and everybody says it, but we were just excited to be nominated. We were like, there's three of us who do this, and it's like fits around our lives, and we don't have any funding or backing from any big, production companies or anything. It's just three people who were strangers and now friends who just have this passion. And we were nominated for this like incredible award, and then we had no idea that we were going to win. And it was all a very surreal experience, with like a virtual Zoom ceremony, and everything was just really weird about it, but it was amazing.
It was very strange that night. I was watching from home, and it was great, but just seeing everybody sort of coping with being on the video calls and then trying to react to when they were winning. And then did you have somebody at your doorstep? Did one of you have presented to you? Yeah, how did that go?
That was, I think our audio didn't come through, so we were very emphatic about winning, but silently through the medium of mime.
Okay, good. It wasn't because you were swearing and they were just bleeping you in, just cutting your mics. Okay, good. Brilliant. Okay. Best new podcast, that is, in a way, that's probably one of the hardest categories to win, because if you think in 2019, 2020, we've had a lot of new podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's not just sort of narrowing it down to best factual or best comedy. It's all podcasts. So pretty impressive.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, we can only win it once, and we did.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So plans moving forward, obviously you have the series 2 that is being released right now. So how many more episodes? I say that obviously by the time this goes out, more episodes will be out. But how many episodes do you have in each season, or is that just however many you fancy doing?
Adam, do you want to take this one?
Yeah. I'm just looking at my whiteboard where I've got my all my notes on it. So season 1 had 8 full episodes, and season 2 will have 11 full episodes. And we just released episode 2, and they're released every Monday at 7 a.m. So there's a new episode every week now until January the 25th for season 2.
Perfect. And then, Shivani, will there be a season 3?
There will be a season 3. We think it might be the last season in the format that we currently do the logbooks.
Okay.
That's probably all I can tell you at the moment.
Is this because you can't win new podcast again, so you need to start a new podcast?
Yeah, right.
Well, it's because the actual physical logbooks finish in 2003. That was when Switchboard moved to making records online digitally, and then the whole format changed. So the actual handwritten notes go up to 2003. So season 3, in theory, would be 92 to 2003, and then we'll retire to our desert island.
Yeah, I think like if you look at the logbook feed, we've got our, like Adam said, our standard formatted way of doing the seasons, but there's been a couple of other episodes that have dropped in, live podcast recordings, or conversations on where we are at the moment, like when we went into lockdown earlier in the year. We did a
lockdown bonus.
Which involved a lemon, me giving Adam a lemon through his window, throwing a lemon at Adam.
Okay.
Yeah, got to listen to hear that.
It's not even a metaphor.
It's not. So maybe we love doing those episodes, and we're really looking into what the future of the logbooks will hold.
Fantastic.
And how we can get funding for season 3.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so people, if you've got some funds, get in touch. That sounds weird, doesn't it? But if you want to, if you've got loads of money to throw, then why not? Before we finish, I should just mention that obviously, if people want to find out a bit more about you, obviously they can Google you and find information. But we had a feature on you guys, didn't we, in the magazine? Issue 7, it was. Jason Reed, who does our Good Samaritan section, had a little feature in an interview. And I think we had an ad, like a link to Switchboard as well. Yeah. So that was great. That was really cool to include you guys in that, and just wanted to plug the mag.
Yeah, nice. Go check it out. It's a really nice piece.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, all 3 of you, for coming on, and hopefully, loads more people will go and check out the logbooks.
Great stuff. Thanks for having us.